the Force, Luke.
Sometimes truth isn't good enough.
I feel the need for speed.
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes!
Because it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
All right. Wardens rise. It is Wednesday. FrostCast 66. We're all done up here in costume. Got my Wednesday thing going on. I tried to give you all the... I don't know. I can't do the left hand. You have to bear with me on that one. But I put the stupid hat on. I need the wig on because I was going to review Wednesday season 2. Didn't get around to it. So I'm stuck with the wig. It cost $20. So you're stuck with me having the Wednesday do for the show tonight. It's going to be a solo wolf stream tonight for FrostCast every Wednesday night. Otherwise, I will have King Z here at 9 p.m. Eastern. He's at a concert with Mrs. King, and hopefully they're having a lovely time. Got a couple of topics we're run through for everybody. I'm going to cover all things spooky because it is that time of year. Actually, it's that time of year wrapping up, I should say. We don't got too much longer to October and spooky seasons. I feel like this ship's going to sail right at the end of the month as we start to get into more of the holiday themed things, even though I would argue spooky season can extend right through to Thanksgiving. But having said that, we wish King Z and the missus the best. Hopefully they're having a good time. He has also given us a little video that I have to reload because in my not understanding how this all works on the StreamYard production side, no, don't want that just yet.
Sorry, I couldn't be there today.
We don't need to see him just yet. I probably just boomered that anyway. We're going to remove that. It happens. He's going to crack up when he sees that. I probably won't even run it the right way. What's up, Pape, dude? Glad to see you. We were going to talk about Welcome to Derry. So King was kind enough to leave me a little 3-minute kind of like a mini impression video that he was going to just get, like, basically his show notes. Since he won't be here tonight, we're going to probably put our heads together and get episode 2 worked out and then probably just incorporate that into FrostCast going forward because there's too many good things coming out in the next couple of months. There's Wonder Man's coming through. Percy Jackson season 2 is coming through. Stranger Things has their final season coming through. So there's going to be all kinds of stuff for us to cover. So we're going to have to bunch of that stuff in probably to FrostCast because we don't have too much time to record things separate. But we will cover what we can do. This thing looks so stupid on my head. It's not even funny, but I'm committed to it. Although I don't understand how these kids have this crap in their eyes all the time. If I have to do this more than 6 times in the next 10 minutes, this thing's off and I'm going back to ball cap. But yeah, the spooky season's upon us. We're almost done. People having a good time. Hopefully everybody's being happy and healthy. If you're taking your kid out to trick or treat, keep an eye on everything. Things are kind of crazy out there. You know, just keep kids safe. Enjoy yourselves, though. And that's too bad in a way that we get to think like that. Because I remember just having fun on Halloween as a kid. Candy, parties, games, movies, all that good stuff. Hopefully there's elements of that still out there. For people to enjoy. You know, I hate to think that everything needs to be locked down and airtight all the time. But the world we live in is a crazy place. But what we're going to do is have fun and get us entertained for hopefully the next hour or until my voice goes for constantly talking. I talk over Kingsley all the time anyway. So hopefully we can bang out an hour's worth of a show. I'll do my best to keep it moving here. I wanted to open with just kind of talking about Welcome to Derry. I got a couple of spoilers that I'll throw in there. So for you folks that have not seen the show, maybe dip out, go check it out on HBO Max. It only has the pilot episode out, so you don't got too much to watch. It is an hour long. And right up front, I would say that it's worth it. But I think I'm going to try to unboomer this whole situation here. Maybe put the King Z video back up. And see, I'm going to do one of these on the side here. And then I'm going to add...
I want to do this message.
Pause him. And I don't know why you guys don't have sound. Babe, if I play this, are you hearing King Z?
About Welcome to Derry, the TV show.
King, I'm gonna let him roll.
This is a prequel show.
Maybe I'll just do that with him when he gets back.
What up, Wardens?
I don't want to mess that up.
Sorry, I couldn't be there today, but I wanted to do this.
You could hear. All right, you know what? I've already listened to him.
About Welcome to Derry, the TV show.
If I go to
this
head
is a prequel show, and just to get my thoughts out real quick, is that this show starts off really weird. Like, this isn't what you expect from a first episode, because they introduce a whole bunch of characters, and then they don't, if you get my drift. Leaving just...
I'm going to interrupt him and do like react to King. Can you still hear him, Pape, even when I'm on the headset? Are we still good? That would be helpful so I don't interrupt him. But to his first point right then and there, I was also surprised by that. It was not something that I expected. You could hear us both. We're good. Thumbs up. Awesome. All right, I'm going to let him ride, and then I'll do some commentary on the end there. I don't think he gets into big spoilers either, so I'm going to let it just roll.
1 or 2, I believe, left from the initial entry. Starts off like with a kid watching a movie, The Music Man, a movie adaptation of the play The Music Man, where they're singing Trouble. And then it just kind of really gets weird when he's trying to hitchhike away from Derry. And then all of a sudden the car's driving straight, and then they're heading back to Derry, and then the family gets really weird that picked them up, and woof, it just really just picks up and goes at that point. It looks great. I had no problem with the CGI that they did in this show. The acting looks good, and I think what makes it really scary, especially the first one, the second one not so much, and the reason why I think is because of the kids. The kids really bring out this story, and I think they got another good batch of kids to bring this story out. I want to see where it goes, because I don't know. Everything that you're used to when it comes to these type of shows, it usually works to this one I see some like a different type of feel. So it's going to take me a couple episodes to get used to what they're doing in this one. Well, I just want to get my notes out. Hope Winter Wolf carries this show pretty well. I know he can. He's done a solo show before.
Once.
But yeah, I really just wanted to let you know what I thought about the show. I am excited about seeing the second episode, and if you haven't seen it, I would go back and recommend that you do watch it. It could be one of those bangers, and once again, it's an HBO show on Sunday night. You know, it's in that golden time slot, where, you know, they put The Penguin, they put Game of Thrones, where they put Dune. So it's like that golden time spot, 9 p.m. on Sundays. All right. Well, just wanted to check in. I hope y'all have a great show, and I will see you guys next week.
Bada bing. There we go. Let me boot King Z right there. Yeah, so that's King Z's take. I'll leave the headset on just in case someone calls. Yeah, dude, Welcome to Derry was an interesting watch. Not what I expected. I thought it was a solid take. It was good. It was very helpful too, Pape, definitely, to have him leave some basic show notes for me to follow, because it actually prompted me to talk about a couple of things that I wanted to hit on about the show that I was not really expecting, like you kind of hinted at. Number one, I think the placement of the show indicates that they have all kinds of faith in it going forward, which is nice. They didn't dump it on some obscure time slot, you know, on streaming like Saturday at 5 p.m. or something like that. They gave it the golden spot, like King Z was talking about. It's going week to week. The only exception to the Sunday launch schedule is they're going to throw Welcome to Derry episode 2. I guess they're going to drop it Friday on Halloween. They're going to be cute about it, which is nice. I think it'll generate some buzz for it. And then we'll wait till, the following Sunday to get episode 3. Tonally, it's what I expected for a show that's about, Derry, Maine, from Stephen King and the It universe, prequel to It, prequel to Pennywise, doing that kind of thing. No, they definitely did not Firefly the show. They'll definitely be airing these in order, on top of not just having a good time slot either, which is nice. It's nice to be able to just respond directly to the chat, not have them jump down my throat for a week either if they're listening remotely. But yeah, Welcome to Derry did better than I thought it was going to go did better in the pilot than I thought it was going to be. I had big concerns going into this show that, like most prequels, it's going to over answer too much too soon and just strip all the mystery and some of the ambiguity out of Pennywise, out of the magic of what makes that world work. And I know it's only been an episode, but I sort of cheated and listened into a couple of other folks that had screeners for like the first 4 or 5, and they kind of hit on that they play up they play out the pacing properly. They don't dump too much information up front and kill kind of the mystery of the journey too early. So I think I can look forward to that. Previous to the show, I didn't realize that it was Andy Machete and Barbara Machete. I don't know if they're related or husband and wife, who did it in It Chapter 2, are the creative force behind this show as well. I believe they wrote all 8 episodes, and Andy Muschietti is directing the first 4. He is not, as far as I know, Pape, he's not attached to the show, but he has seen it. I was catching up with an article in Hollywood Reporter that you might have caught on like MSNBC.com or some other, one of the other news aggregate sites, where he's seen the show. The interviewer asked him if he had any changes that he was like hard focused on them making, or if he had any guidelines that he was insistent upon, and they said no, and that he rather enjoyed the show for what it was. That could be a good sign, but I'm sure he probably said a lot of the same positive things about the 90s miniseries, which had its own kind of graphics problems and other things that people didn't like. But that's become kind of a cult favorite, I think, at this point. The other 90s It series there. So yeah, stylistically, it looks the same. It looks like we're back in Derry to like, the kid portions of its chapters 1 and 2, which was nice. There's a color palette decision there that makes it a little bit more red and orange and bronze, which lends itself to being intimidating in a couple of scenes where you really expect to be intimidated. King talked about the first 10 minutes. The show doesn't relent on those 10 minutes. It's pretty nasty. Pape saying he has not been shy about criticizing movies, didn't like, so that feedback is well received. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I guess when people did make dumpster versions of some of his other stuff, especially like those 90s movies, he was like, nah, I wasn't in on those. That's true. That's a fair point. The look of the show, like I was saying with the color palette and things like that, it's different than the movies, but it's not cheap. It looks good. It looks like they spent their money on it. I haven't seen any good numbers on the Welcome to Derry show yet in terms of production budget, but nothing looks cheap. It looks well thought out, well designed. The characters, their style of dress, the set dressing, literally the cars they use, it's all very period piece. You feel like you're back in the 60s, which is cool, especially for the sequences that are on the army base. You get to see, old planes, old Jeep vehicles, classic uniforms, stuff like that. So I enjoyed that. It looks authentic, which is important when you're trying to do flashback shows. You just can't wing it. You lose all your verisimilitude really quickly, and then it's time for me to check out. So they got that going for them there. I think strongest parts of the show so far is they're playing on the shock value of eliminating characters early, like King Z said in his mini notes. But I'm not sure that's going to be a strong point for them going forward. I think you lose effect if you eliminate too many characters too quickly and consistently, and then have to reintroduce more characters for you to get to know, only to lose a short period later. I had that problem with that show on Apple TV, Masters of the Air. Like, Saving Private Ryan was good because you got to know the guys, and then they die off one by one in heartbreaking ways. But then you're not given 3, 4, 5 new people that you're supposed to identify with, empathize with, and then to the same level as the original group, and then lose them again. Welcome to Derry is going to have to walk a fine line because they introduced a few decent characters and their kids. And then they take them off the board by the end of the episode. I won't go into deep spoilers on that. Production budget estimated to be 75 to 80 million total. If it's total, then this puts to shame everything we've ever said about shit shows like The Acolyte. You know what I mean? 230 million for The Acolyte. Get out of here. That's Game of Thrones. That's House of the Dragon money. Production budget 75 to 80 mil. Respectable. Much respect. That's 10 mil an episode for a show that definitely is going to have its fair share of CG, dude. Like, I'll tell you right now, they lay it on pretty thick in their bookend scenes, the beginning and the end. That opening scene the King was talking about has the CGI demon baby character that's in everybody's thumbnail, and they don't shy away from it. But unlike Alien Earth, we haven't seen this thing before, so they can put it front and center after it's kind of hinted at and you get the glimpse of it, and then you let it be terrifying because it's flying around doing all its crazy shit. I didn't think it looked too rubbery. I thought the CGI looked appropriate. I mean, in the back of your head, you realize that it's foolish looking for what it is, but in context, it was gruesome and pretty effective. And as it grows, it does more gruesome shit to people. So I thought that kind of worked. So we'll see what they do later. You know, like when Pennywise shows up in any of his other forms that he chooses to torment his victims, maybe the CGI falls flat later. Who knows? Couldn't fucking tell you. You know what I mean? But for right now, I think they're cruising okay with the CGI that they very much focused onto that one creature, and then everything else is kind of atmospheric. It's more character driven. It's more of their fears creeping up on them in the dark than it is just plastering CGI monsters on the screen throughout the whole set. I had apprehensions, and Pabe, you can let me know if you did you watch episode 1? Am I preaching to the choir on this, or because I don't want to blow too much stuff for anybody that hasn't seen it. So I think I'm just going to hit it in broad strokes. My concern going in was that they were going to go Timu Losers Club, or Wish version Losers Club. Like they were going to go get a group of kids, get a group of parents, and then run separate stories and then combine them in the middle somewhere, almost like Raj. Okay, we'll do. They were going to have two groups of people, and then they were going to cross storylines, kind of like how Stranger Things early seasons did it, where the kids were doing their thing, the adults were trying to figure crap out. They met in the middle trying to find Will. I thought there was going to be some similarity there, broad stroke, but that's not how the show went down at all. The kid that you think is going to be their Will Byers, it's not even a spoiler because it's the first 10 minutes and everybody's going to talk about it, doesn't make it. Like he's toast. Okay, that's the only spoiler I'll give you, just because it's that obvious. So they don't have that. What happens more is other people that weren't great to this kid while he was alive feel guilty, and then they start to get drawn into finding him because his body never turned up after he disappeared. So they all have their various responses to how they weren't there for him when he needed it, because the kid had a bad hand dealt. Abusive parents, crap home life, people just dump on him constantly, and not for anything that they really put out there on Front Street is to justify him being treated poorly. Honestly, like my heart went out to the kid. They did a weird character beat where they had this like 12-year-old kid sucking on a pacifier in different moments. And I'm like, I get what you're going for. He's got some trauma. He needs his binky, but it just looks weird. And these weird character beats that they do in shows, like on Alien Earth with the boy genius being like barefoot and dirty and like holding the iPad with his feet. Like I'm just over these people. I'm good. Just put normal people in shows and show me what normal people do in horrible situations. I really think I need that back. But it was limited and he wasn't there a long time. And then you think it's going to be about this other group of kids that had these interactions and relationships with them, including the girl who I think is the main character after episode 1. And it's tough to tell because if they're going to Game of Thrones the whole thing, you can't be too sure. But they have like the token crazy girl whose dad died in an industrial accident. She's bullied. She's got the one close friend. I'm calling her Timu Barb, hashtag justice from Barb from Stranger Things season 1, who's trying to keep the main character Lily stay quiet a little bit because their reps are being ruined because high school girls are mean and high school is tough and all that good stuff. But it really does feel like Barb Light on that one character. But that's your focal character is Lily, the girl who lost her dad. She's got a couple of other kids that are kind of hangers on to the guilt of losing. Maddie Clements is the kid that gets taken, but they have their own weird family stuff that kind of drive. See, I don't want to blow it too early. It's only been the one episode, but there's kind of like a losers club thing, but their ranks change by the end of the episode significantly. I'll leave it at that. We'll go there. But it's not just a kid's show. It's not Stranger Things, and this is the big difference. And I think this is where they can do something interesting here. The adult story of the show has nothing to do with the kids at all that I see yet. It's following Mike Hanlon's grandfather, who is an Air Force captain or lieutenant or whichever, who comes to Derry at the beginning of the show to test pilot a new bomber. And it looks like they're setting him up for like some kind of like Cold War espionage, um, protect the specs on the new plane kind of story. I don't know how that's going to overlap with the kids. He's not related to anybody that's part of the main cast. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. Excuse me, guys. Pape says, hold on, I'm going to start putting your comments up there. There's a version of Eddie Bowers, an antagonist outside of Pennywise. Not yet, because the mechanism by which Maddie Clements isn't on the show wasn't the Eddie Bowers character that I was expecting. I mean, it's this weird, I guess I can tell you because you'll see it when you watch it. It's just a weird family that looks weird. They act weird. And by the time their teenage daughter is like dipping her hands in a Tupperware container that's marked liver and her fingers are coming out bloodied and everything gets really weird after that in the first 10 minutes, you know that there's just some weird shit going on. But no, so far there hasn't been the bully character. And I wonder, because that's a great question, I wonder if they purposely trying to steer away from echoing beats from the movie and the book. You know what I mean? Like maybe they didn't want to go a 1-for-1. Like maybe they sat down, the machetes, and they were like, listen, we're already going to do a group of kids thing because that's like the core identity of it, right? The found family losers club trope. We probably shouldn't have some psychopath carving his initials into one of these other kids. It'd probably run too close. That'd be my guess, that they don't necessarily want to do the same kind of thing there. But the adult story, like I was saying, doesn't directly intersect with the kids yet. And I'll be interesting to see how those merge up because there's no obvious mechanism that can make that happen. So I hope that they didn't just like cram in this storyline for bloat. It's funny. I was just talking to my stepdaughter about the final season of Stranger Things coming up and how every episode is literally like a feature length. And I'm like, that sounds good on paper, but if it ends up being 40% bloat, I'd have just preferred that they had their 8 episodes. I wonder if this show is running the risk for that. If they've got 8 or 10 episodes, but they've already told a kid's story with it already, that there's not a whole lot of new things that they can do. We already understand what the creature does. It feeds on the fears of people, specifically kids. Every 20 odd years, hold on, it was in my face. Every 20 odd years or whatever it is. So there's not a lot of new anything I need to know to be on Earth there. And I feel like if they dig too deep into that, it's just going to eliminate the mystery anyway. So them doing the government conspiracy plan, and I'd love to pick King Z's brain on this when he gets back. Where does he think that's going to go? How is Pennywise going to tie into a 1960s Air Force captain who's black and already dealing with a little bit of racism in the first scene that he appears on the show? How is that going to play in? Because we've seen Pennywise deal with the gay couple at the beginning of chapter 2 for the movie, and he didn't shy away from killing one of those guys or both of those guys or whatever. I wonder how he's going to treat the black Air Force lieutenant in the 1960s. Like what is the show going to have to say about racism going forward? And as long as it's not on the nose and heavy handed, I don't care. It's 60s. They should talk about that kind of thing. It's period specific. Like that should be part of it, but I don't know how the espionage thing is going to work out. I like the kid characters, but I don't think besides Lily, they're as memorable as the Losers Club characters. And maybe that's because, I read the book when I was a kid. We all saw the movies. We all had to deal with the trauma of watching Denborough's kid brother get his arm bitten off in the sewer. It was some shit. Nobody liked that. No parent out there liked watching that scene. I assure you, I was going to whoop that clown's ass. Believe that. But I feel like none of these kids are elevating anything they've been given to do through the first episode, such as it is. And I don't want to say too much more than that going into like episode 2. But I'll be checking out episode 2 on Friday, and we'll hopefully have a review, or maybe we'll just save that for FrostCast on Wednesday, because there's a lot to talk about when you guys get caught up on the show for sure. Yeah, they have to avoid the Losers Club motif. Pennywise is still around. That's what I mean. Like, it's kind of like, we hate it when shows try to or movies in particular try to over expand things and then wind up with yet another blue laser into space world ending problem. The trick for this show, Pape, I think you're right. They're gonna keep it local to Derry because that's the stomping grounds. But what do you do that you haven't already done? You know, I think they need to involve the adults with the kids in interesting ways and not just in like episode 8. You know, if they run these two stories parallel and then just combine in like the last 10 minutes, I don't think that's a good look for the show. So, you know, it won't end well for the kids too. It already didn't end well for a couple of them. It's only been an episode. That's the crazy shit. That's what I was saying earlier about it feeling like Game of Thrones or The Expanse. Like we're just eliminating characters for the shock value because maybe what the story that's waiting isn't going to hit that hard, which is disappointing if it goes that way. You know, I think they've already played the, you know, F them kids cards, like I said on the thumbnail, which, dude, is that the vibe for horror in 2025? Like Terrifier 3, Black Phone 2, Welcome to Derry. Are we just smoking kids on film now? Is that the play? Because like you're going to get desensitized to that quickly, just like you get desensitized to teenagers getting hacked up. And where do you go from there? How long until we're kicking dogs in horror movies and people are okay with it? Because people are ready to fucking riot over that kind of thing right now. You know, looking at you, Hassan. But yeah, the last scene catches you off guard when they pick off the characters that they pick off. And I was in the chair like I couldn't believe they did it. Because you figure in 8 episodes, right? You got to save a moment like that for maybe getting them kids in episode 3. You know what I mean? Getting one of them at the end of episode 2 or something like that. You don't think you're going to lose kids like that quickly. And they did. So I will follow up with King Z. We'll get out some information on Welcome to Derry chapter 1. Welcome to Derry episode 2. We'll see if we can incorporate that into FrostCast for next week. So having discussed Welcome to Derry, I'm going to move into the main topic now of the evening. And this is where I want to hear from people in the comments and the chat. Well, hold up, Pape. Let me get that right there. Hold on. Put you on the big screen, boss. Missing kids equals calls for action. Maybe that's what mobilizes Derry to try to put Pennywise down in this era. Dude, I could vibe with that because that would give me Shades of Weapons from August of this year, where they have that pivotal town meeting. Maybe they indicate a scapegoat. Maybe there's someone that takes up the head of the lynch mob position, you know what I mean, demanding that the police do something, even though what can you really do? And then maybe it's Pennywise in disguise. Like there's I guess you can do that kind of stuff, which I'd be happy to see them do. What I don't need is I'm guessing you don't want the same thing either, boss. You don't want a rehash of one by one. Each kid faces their specific nightmare that they've already foreshadowed is their thing. So, you know, if one of the other kids has the overbearing or abusive father like Bev had, we don't need to do that again. If one of them's afraid of snakes, we don't need to have him, you know, walking in the sewers and get surrounded by a bunch of like water moccasins or something. Like I don't need that. Like you can do that to the lead character once, but I don't need the roster by roster assassination of that. I don't want another version of that. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm with you, and I think if King Z was here tonight, he'd probably agree as well. Like they have to do something creative with the parental response to these kids going missing, because now by the end of episode 1, in a span of like 2 months, I think it is, they're now going to have a handful of dead kids on their hands in a small town. You know what I mean? It's not like you know, 2 kids get kidnapped from New York or something and like nobody knows, nobody cares. Like it's small town shit. Like everyone's going to know. So hopefully they can hopefully it goes in a good direction. It's week to week, so we're going to have to string this along like right into December, I think, cuz I think it's got I think I heard 8 episodes. So maybe right it'd have to go into December. But we'll take a peek at that week to week. Like I was saying, I'm going to get into the fun topic now for the evening here. And you guys can let me know. I don't have a poll done up, so you guys just have to let me know in the comments when this gets posted. And Pape, you can let me know as we go. I want to know what y'all were watching as your favorite go-to Halloween movies growing up, currently, way back in the day, 2 years ago, whatever you want to talk about. Because I got like a nice little list here that I put together. And to be fair, I've seen trillions of these, right? So total disclosure, I had ChatGPT give me the top 50 horror movies dating back to the 70s because I was like, I needed to remember crap I've seen. I didn't remember that I'd seen Leprechaun 3. I'm not saying that's on my go-to list, but it put it on one of the lists I was looking at. So I got a good mix up here. And I just kind of wanted to just kind of yap a little bit about horror movies because I think Halloween we only get like 2 holidays like this. We get Halloween and Christmas. And I think at Christmas, everybody always mentions the same 2 or 3 movies. People watch A Christmas Story, people watch Elf, people watch, if you're old school, you watch It's a Wonderful Life. That's it. There's not too many more than that, in my opinion. I think people tend to gravitate to those 3 things. We watch the same 2 or 3 cartoons if you can find them on. And the way Disney and Peacock and other things have been playing lately, these cartoons may not be around much longer. But that's it. We get Halloween to discuss Halloween movies and Christmas for Christmas movies. The Halloween movies, there's like hundreds of things that people watch because they're not all specific to Halloween. In fact, I think most of the movies people watch at Halloween is Michael Myers. It isn't that series of things. So I got my little list here, and I'm going to start right away with my my little subtitle here. Who are you going to call? You'd be a fool if you didn't pull out the original Ghostbusters on Halloween. It's a near perfect screenplay. It's got all that sardonic, dry 80s humor. It's got proton packs for the kids. There's not a kid alive that didn't want a proton pack between 1984 and like 1998. It's probably besides the lightsaber, it's probably the coolest piece of sci-fi fantasy tech ever invented. I love me the proton pack. But I love the vibe of Ghostbusters because it doesn't rely on, at every possible beat, some loud ass string, slamming door, jump scare kind of thing. There's a couple, don't get me wrong. The library thing is one. The dog crashing through the door, devil dog crashing through the door is another one. But Ghostbusters absolutely does its thing. And it's worth it. One of the all-time greats, Pape, 100%. One of the all-time greats. I don't know about you. I've got a soft spot for part 2. I really do. No irony. Completely hand to God, unironically. I like part 2 because I like seeing those characters. And it doesn't matter if they're in a bad movie to me. I like the characters so much that they can do the pink slime thing and basically retread part 1 right down to the part where there's some dickhead mayor's aide. In this case, it's not the EPA guy, it's the mayor's aide. And I just like to watch them resolve shit like Ghostbusters resolve, even if it doesn't make any sense, because I like the 3 main characters, I like the 4 main Ghostbusters, and then you like their supports. Ghostbusters isn't Ghostbusters without Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis, Annie Potts in either of the movies, and I think that's one of the glaring deficiencies. Yeah, deficiencies would be the word, between even Ghostbusters 2 and that dumpster fest Answer the Call from 2016. Like, nah, I'm good. There's nothing likable there. But Ghostbusters 1, from the novel premise of we need to leave academia to start a small business to basically become blue collar exterminators because we actually know ghosts are real and we're going to clean up and franchise rights and everything else. I love Bill Murray in that role. Love Dan Aykroyd. Love Harold Ramis. Love them all. All 4 of them are great. Ernie Hudson. Love all 4 of them. Can't do it. Tell them about the Twinkie. It's about fucking a mile wide or whatever. That's what I love that shit. That's a big Twinkie. If there's a steady paycheck, I'll believe anything you tell me. Exactly. That's what I mean. It's the 3 scientists and the blue collar guy doing blue collar shit, not having a plan and not knowing what to do, but doing the hero thing and doing it anyway. The scene where they get sucked into the street at the end of part 1, and then they come up, and then the fucking 80s music bumps back into place. Like that's cool. Like that's Gooseflesh for me. That's good 80s comeback theme stuff. So yeah, I recommend Ghostbusters. I tell you, that's a must see for me. If you haven't seen Ghostbusters, do me a favor, go check that out. I'll give you another one right here. This one might rub y'all the wrong way because this one, this might be the weakest entry on the list. I won't even bullshit you. It's one of those movies that's the first of a franchise that went like 13 deep. It's been remade 2-3 times that I'm aware of, at least. Most of the sequels are god awful, but a couple of them have a special place in my heart again. The age I was when I seen them. And dude, that's the thing too with horror movies. If you see these things at the right time, you probably vibe with them a little bit deeper or better than you would if you grown. So I know this was based on a Stephen King short story. I know a lot of people have problems with this movie in and of itself, even though it is a part one and even though it's instantly recognizable cross culturally. Like people just like they get the references to it. When I say he who walks behind the rose, people over the age of 30 know what that means, know what movie I'm talking about. Talking about Children of the Corn. Outlander! We have your woman. Dude, he wants you too, Malachi. Dude, Pape, you've said that before, brother. You've said that before. That's why you have an affinity for the Halloween films, because they were there when you were at that age to just stick in your brain. Now I've got a special trifecta of those that popped up in the early 90s. You're gonna laugh your balls off when I get to that part. Trust me. You're gonna love them. But Children of the Corn, right? Linda Hamilton. Can't remember the boyfriend's name. It's the premise is so preternaturally unnerving that you just got to give respect to the story for just even being written, right? You're talking about an isolated town in the middle of bum nowhere, right? Where the kids have taken up into a cult-like arrangement with a demon and have killed all the adults in town, and now they're just running shit. You get that? They're just running Corn Town in it's Gatlin, Nebraska, right? Led by Malachi is the redhead. Who's the other one? Isaac, right? With his basically Sharia law kind of style of living, no music, no games, no fun. And oh, by the way, when you turn 18, you get to walk your ass into the corn and sacrifice yourself to he who walks behind the rose. Yeah. But I love the vibe of the movie. Sarah Connor, she was Sarah Connor Terminator 1, though. She was not T2 Sarah Connor. That'd have been a much different movie. In fact, I'm gonna get King Z on that. Dude, there he is, boss. What's up, dude? King Z sent you there. We need to get you on the AI to make a version of Children of the Corn where it's Sarah Connor from T2 as Linda Hamilton's character from Children of the Corn. That should be funny. I would greatly enjoy seeing that. But I love the corn. You get a couple of good chase sequences. The kids chanting choir music is preeminently creepy in every scene that they use it. And yeah, that the effects are dated with how they nuke the demon at the end, but it's one of my go-tos. I do enjoy that movie thoroughly for spooky season. And I'm gonna bring you guys up to speed, sort of. We're gonna get you one that I mention a lot, but I want to give this movie a special nod because it is still to this day the only movie that as an adult has crept under my skin and stayed there after having viewed it once. And I'm talking about Sinister. Sinister's probably 10 years old now. It came out in like 2015. Ethan Hawke is he's a true crime writer who's past his prime. He had a big hit, but it's been like 10 years. He gets wind of another mass murder kind of case and moves his family into the house where the murder was committed so he can write a book and do his investigative thing that he does. Doesn't tell the family where they moved, just that the other house they were in was too expensive. They had to leave, right? Weird stuff happens. Grainy footage occurs. There's references to a pagan deity by Kingpin, which is the weak point of the movie. And then you get the reveal of who the killers really are. And that's when shit just gets super unnerved because you get these images of these ghostly kids doing terrible things to their families, which again, as a parent, is just like the worst possible fucking feeling. But I didn't make it, I kid you guys not, I didn't make it 3 minutes into this movie without being unnerved because that opening scene right before the, you are unfamiliar with Sinister? Oh, good Lord, dude. Go get that wherever it's streaming right now and watch it. Don't watch part 2. Part 2 is garbage. Part 1, Scott Derrickson was onto something when he wrote and directed that one. He knew because it's a banger. The first 3 minutes, Pate, involve some grainy, I don't know what the format was. King probably have told me. I think it was like 8mm footage or whatever they used back in the day. Grainy footage of like a family and they're all strung up on the branch of a tree and like one by one they fall and they hang to their deaths and you don't know why, but you're literally just watching them. Well, clearly, obviously after the FrostCast, and somebody's got to be here. Warden Prime himself. Huzzah! There we go. It's just unnerving. And if you like a certain kind of horror movie that doesn't necessarily involve loud stuff all the time, that is a bit more atmospheric, but balanced nicely with loud stuff when it happens, I think you'll enjoy Sinister. I really do. Huzzah, dude. I like our new catchphrase here. The Lady of Winter loves the huzzah. We're going to go with that. But that's Sinister. Dude, now I'm going to go back in the DeLorean. I'm going to have King Z pull the car around. We're going to juice up Mr. Fusion. We're going to go back in time to the 80s. This is another one that's part of a big franchise that gets dumped on a lot. All right. It gets dumped on a lot because it's had endless sequels. They're mainly derivative of Halloween. I'm talking about the Friday the 13th series. But I'm a fan of 6. I love me some Jason Lives. I love the conclusion of the Tommy Jarvis arc of those movies. I love Tom Matthews in the role as Tommy Jarvis. But moreover, right? And for you guys that have seen this, you can let me know in the comments, chat, whichever. Let me know if I'm right. I feel like Friday 6 is the only one in the series of like the old, like up to probably Jason Goes to Hell, like of the originals, not like the remake, not Jason Goes to Hell, not Freddy versus Jason. 6 feels like the most complete movie to me. Like there's a main character that has agency. He's trying to do something. He screws it up in the beginning royally, becomes responsible for several deaths in screwing that up royally, and then has to come up with a plan, as dumb as it is, to put Jason back under the water or put him back in the water. Right. And I don't think the other Fridays do that. The other Fridays try some funky stuff with like the copycat killer. And of course, part 1 did the iconic thing with Moms being the killer. Everybody knows that. Spoiler alert, that's like 50 years old. I don't feel bad about that. But 6, I feel like, has enough stuff story-wise that the other ones lack. And I appreciate that. I also appreciate the fact that it's the only Friday the 13th movie that actually has kids in it besides young Tommy Jarvis. Like there's actual campers at the damn camp. You know, Wolf Jr. the other day, Winter Wolf Jr. says to me the other day, Dad, how many kids has Jason killed in all the movies? He's 9. And I was like, 0. Because there's never any kids there. So the teens are a whole different ballgame. Once you're over 18, it's all you can get hacked. It's cool. 6 is Jason Lives, I believe, isn't it? Or is it A New Beginning? And 7 is 7 Jason Lives. Did I get them backwards? Which one is Jason versus Carrie? That's New Blood. Now that hold up. No, New Beginning is 5. That's the one with Copycat, if I'm not mistaken. And Jason Lives is 6 because he came back after the Copycat. I'm pretty sure it's 6. But that's the one I mean. I mean the one with Tom Matthews as older Tommy Jarvis, not mental patient Tommy Jarvis. Like the conclusion to the 3-movie arc. That's the one I like there. I recommend that one. I think if you were to start the series today and you had to cherry pick out the good ones, I would just tell people honestly to do 4, 5, and 6. The Tommy Jarvis arc, I think, are the best 3 of the movie. And I get it. I get 5 gets a lot of hate because Jason technically isn't in the film. I would still say that the 3 of those together, even though Tommy Jarvis is played by 3 different people, it's still they still slap together as like a bookended kind of trilogy. Not too shabby. I'm gonna pick let's stick with the 80s, Pape. Let me get your brain picked on this one since you're here. You a big fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, any chance? Because that's the one I got up next to my hand curated list for y'all. I'm thinking at least one person's going to comment later on, why did you pick this and not that? So my list includes the first one. Okay, so you might be the guy. I actually picked Dream Warriors. I went with 3. I went with 3 as my pick. I love the first one. Dude, the second one, growing on me as I get older because I admired that they tried to do some different shit with the world building. It didn't really work, but I like that they did try to expand it beyond the one girl in the one house. And I feel like that's the direction maybe Halloween should have went in with its sequel. I dare you to wear that to work for the rest of the week. Hell's yeah. Whatever. What are they going to say? What are they going to say? Dude, King, I got you. The King right here laying down challenges, being bold. Look at this. Look at this dude. I dare you to wear that to work. He says, dude, I bet I walk up in there and nobody says a word. I bet I get away with it. They all messed up on methadone anyway, man. I'd probably be okay. You can't get around the epicness of the first Freddy movie. And like I was saying the other week, Pape, you might remember, said I need Hollywood writers and producers and directors to get back to a point where they're coked up like 60, 70% of the time, dude. So they can come up with some wild shit like that. Yeah. Yep. Dream Warrior, just spoiler. For Freddy. Is Dream Warriors the one where they went into the dream zone to hunt him? Yeah, that's where Nancy was back as the psychologist at the institution with the trouble kids, and a couple of them survive into part 4, a couple of them don't. But again, they did some weird world building with that, where they do the whole Freddy's mom was the nun that got raped at the asylum, so he was the son of 100 maniacs, and that whole thing. There's just 80s weird personified. Like everything was like bigger, badder, bolder. Freddy 3 to this day has the one kill that I can't rewatch in any horror series that I've ever seen, dude. I got a thing about cut wrists. It's like a kryptonite wound to me. And when Freddy turns that kid into a marionette with the veins, I'm like, I'm out. Can't do it. Can't do it, dude. You could lose half of your face in a thresher accident, and I got you covered to stop the bleeding. You come at me with a paper cut anywhere south of like your thumb, no, instant queeze. It's the weirdest effing thing, dude. The weirdest effing thing. But yeah, I like Freddy 3 there. It was the perfect balance. I think Freddy was still dark, ominous, and creepy, but because he was moving into like commercial success at that point with 3, he got a little too big with his britches here, and people ate it up. So they just kept layering it on for 4, 5, and 6, which is a dumpster fire. Then they had to rail it back in for New Nightmare. So Pape says the first time in that type of film they gave the victim some sort of dude, exactly. And again, that's what I think made it kind of novel. You know, we've seen, I mean, except for like total final girl badasses like Laurie Strode, or like the I can't remember her name from the end of Friday 2. Was that Alice or was that Jenny? I think it was Jenny. Where like she actually came up with the plan to like fake Jason out by putting the sweater on and this and that. The victims as a group were organized. Like they got with somebody that had previous experience, rolled up in there and did some damage. You know, so that made it kind of interesting. Oh, hold up. Bang check. Right now I can see the screen again. So it was kind of interesting. So I did appreciate that about Nightmare 3. And you can say what you want about the rest of the movies. They do get wildly goofy. But if I was bored and had nothing to do and they were just on a back to back to back, 2, 3, 4, 5, I could probably watch at least 2 of those and not be bored and not consider it a waste of my time, even though I've seen them all. Because they are still quintessentially, like you said, those movies that I grew up with. They have a special place, even though they are hackneyed. The longer they go on, they're still not terrible. Here's one that I know King Z will appreciate, dude. Hide and seek, badass final go, because Nancy Thompson is a badass. Heather Langenkamp she was great. And I've said this before too. I loved seeing her growth as an actress between 1, 3, and 7. Like as she got older and mature in real life, she actually, like you could see that on screen, which was nice. There's only 20 when they made part 1, you know? So it was nice seeing that come along. Pape's got a little, he's got a classic. He's got a classic. We got the class. I figured otherwise. I thought maybe you were looking at more of like an OF hub kind of version of that movie, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Mummy. Dude, I agree, and I think that that's something King Z and I should look into for next year when we get into spooky seasons. We should probably do classic movies. That's what I mean. That's exactly an old school black and white. Do a total throwback to those movies, and then mix in a little Abbott and Costello for some humor and things like that. I'd totally be down for that. One of the biggest disappointments I think that came out of this whole shared universe bullshit of the last decade is that these clowns couldn't get the dark universe off the ground. Like the Tom Cruise Mummy one that was supposed to lead, and they had cast who did they get? They got Russell Crowe to be Jekyll and Hyde, and they got somebody else to be Frankenstein and Bride. And dude, I do those 6 movies together would be balls. The Creature from the Black Lagoon in there, get a better Dracula in there than Untold or whatever the other one was that had Luke what's his face. Not that was awful, but you can't launch a franchise like that. And that Tom Cruise Mummy movie was cinematic abortion. You can bring the Brendan Fraser version any day. That should put that on the list. Brendan Fraser's first 2 Mummy movies, infinitely better than the other Cruise one. Universal completely missed the point of the old monster movies. Exactly. I think they rushed to do the whole, we need a shared universe because Marvel has one and Star Wars is big and they've got shows and movies that are a shared universe. Slow down. Pump the brakes. Think this shit through. You know? How do you even make that kind of thing work? You really need to storyboard out the big idea and then break it down into the entries and the batting order for sure. But the other movie I wanted to mention that I think King would appreciate, if he's still on, he can let me know. Dude, I put The Thing on here. I usually watch The Thing right around this time of year, sometime around Halloween. It dips into November sometime. But again, there's something about the quiet horror that gets established early on in a horror movie where it's just you're in an isolated spot, and it doesn't have to be a dark swamp or a dirt or a murky cave like The Descent. That's another banger, by the way. You're just down there in the bright snow of the Antarctic, and there's nowhere you can go, and all it takes is one storm to cut off comms and rescue, and for them to be like, hey, nobody else is going to be up for 5 days or a week until this passes. Like, what do you do? What do you do? Oh, well, you could just rely on your friends to have your back and everybody act like normal people. But now the monster's within. Now you're fucked. Now one of them or more of them are out to get you. Oh, now they're all out to get you. What do you do? Like, your options are fucking limited at that point, right? So even if that movie didn't have state-of-the-art practical effects that still hold up better than 90% of the crap I watched today, there's still that element of that suffocating dread of being somewhere that no one is coming to help you. There is no escape from there at all, which is why I think the ending to that movie has stuck with me for 25, 30 years now, right? 40 years almost, probably. I probably saw that when I was probably 6 or 7 for the first time. But like, they're at the end and they're just like, let's just sit here a little while and see what happens. Both of them motherfuckers know they're not getting out of there. But I think the important question, and I'll put that to the chat and to the comment section below, was one of them the Thing at the end of that, or were they both human and just knew they couldn't leave, so they just drank there? Pape says, let me pull you up, brother, man. Thank you for being here, too. I appreciate you helping me drive. Shop Smart, Shop S Smart, get your copy of Evil Dead 3, Army of the Dead there. They made an Evil Dead 3? Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. Is that Evil Dead 3? Is that what you're going for? That's on my list of wolf stuff must watch, and that might even be next because we just did Tron. Those movies would have been on. They're not on my list. I've seen the first two. I've never seen Army of Darkness. I've never seen Army of Darkness in its entirety. I'm aware of the jokes, just like when we were talking about Tron the other day, man. It's like I hadn't seen it, but I know what it is. Like, I know the look, I know the vibe, I know the plot, I know all that good stuff. Army of Darkness might be my next go-to on that adjacent to Retro Watch playlist. Next one I wanted to bring up, I'm going to throw it way back to the 80s again. Pape, you might know this one. The Gate with Steven Dorff. It's again, I got a vibe for these 80s movies that had kids as their stars that I saw when I was a kid at the same time have stuck with me now into my 40s. I just recently had a birthday, you know what I mean? But these are still the movies I gravitate to because they stick into your DNA when they get the kid characters right. The Gate's a movie about kids that are home alone. Stupid shit happens to them. Gate to hell, they open with the typical 80s satanic panic, record played backwards thing. But the grown-ups are away and they're not coming back to save these kids. And when they finally get back at the end of the movie, like, the house is destroyed, But like, there's so much terrifying shit that happens that only a kid would interpret in ways like they did in that movie, with older sibling trying to move on from being their caretaker and being more independent from issues that your friends are having at home. So you try to bring them into the fold of something more normal so they don't feel left behind. But every one of these people, every one of those main characters has an issue that they play up into the psychology of the horror that those people go through, and they had decent character relationships between Steven Dorff and his sister, Steven Dorff and his next door neighbor buddy. His parents seem kind of dickishly disinterested until the end. The Gate, aka the evil version of dude, yeah, dude, seriously, man, it really is. But I mean, dude, that like this movie is instantly understandable as a kid because in the first like 10 minutes of this movie, Steven Dorff's getting in trouble for the giant ass hole in the backyard that dad thinks he dug, but it would have taken like a bulldozer to do, or like a fucking a backhoe or something. But it's because like lightning struck a tree and derooted it. But like, dad's blaming the kid. I'm like, dude, dad, come on, it's fucking 15 feet deep and I'm 9. Like, give me a break. Like, no shot. But I would say again, claymation, the stop motion that they use for the creature effects holds up. Those little minions fucking walking back and forth and doing some creepy ass shit and grabbing people and trying to nibble on them. No, dude, I had my feet up off the side of the bed for a couple weeks when I saw that for the first time. And I think the first time I saw that was coming back from a Halloween party. My feet were up in the back seat of that car coming back. Believe that. They weren't on the ground. No chance. Like, that's how you know a movie's got you. You're like, nah, blanket can't hang over the side. Feet can't be on the floor. Got to stay all tucked in. Hells yeah. That's a good horror movie right there. I also think it's a solid movie if you guys got kids, like little kids, especially in 2025. This movie is horror for 1980, whatever. It came out like 83, I think. It's so benign now, though, compared to what kids actually watch on like YouTube and on streaming and just social media in general, that I think they might even think it's kind of dumb and dated. But if you think you got a kid that's in the right kind of frame of mind, that's interested in horror movies, it's pretty good. It doesn't shy away from effects when you need it. Stop motion. Pape says Ray Harryhausen is a special effects god. If that's the guy if that was the creative director or the technical director of that movie, hell yeah, he knew he role. No, I know some people dump on the final monster in that movie for just being like a bigger version of the minis. I thought that made sense. I was okay with that. It's like, of course, it would be like a lord demon that has a certain appearance, and all the minions are in his image. You know what I mean? So I don't really get the whole like you needed something different looking to be in command. I didn't mind that at all. I'm gonna hit you with a few more modern ones. I want to get to that like that 90s trifecta. Did I have The Ring, Saw, and the first Paranormal Activity movie as Halloween go-tos for people that need something on the beaten path? I know tastes and preferences run very different. Oh, he's one of those guys. If I Google him, I'll go, oh, he did that. Oh, and that. Did I feel like I did that once with Alan Silvestri in the movies he scored? Because we always talk about Hans Zimmer, John Williams, guys like that. But guys like is it Jeffrey Horner or Richard Horner and Alan Silvestri are like, no, you guys scored my childhood. Like, thank you. Saw. A lot of gore hounds out there, a lot of people that are completely turned off by the idea, and the franchise does become basically torture porn after I think part 3, maybe 4. I mean, they're all gross, but it really, at least the first trilogy was trying to put together some kind of cohesive vision of a story. Everything after that kind of falls apart and just becomes, what next awful trap are we going to see? And I'm like, there's only so many times I can hear Jigsaw say something like, I abhor murder. I'm not a murderer. I'm like, really? I mean, dude, if I hold you at gunpoint and tell you have to delete yourself or I'm going to delete you, and then you do, like, is it a self-deletion or did I do it? Like, I'm pretty sure they're going to charge me, but that's, yeah, whatever. But this, at least for their time, the first 3 movies I thought were solid. They make for good Halloween viewing because they are kind of gross out. They are tense and creepy. The score to a lot of it is pretty good, especially when that Hello Zap music takes off at the end. That epic, it's like prime Shyamalan level twist where Jigsaw gets up off the floor. You thought he's been dead the whole movie in the dirty bathroom room. Yeah, no, solid. Won't forget that epic twist. I thought that was pretty good. The Ring has a solid distinction with me as well. Maybe you got up. Sorry, Pape, I missed that one. If that list of newer films, The Ring is Shudder's the best of the bunch. Dude, I'm glad you said that because The Ring is the movie that was supplanted for me by Sinister. The Ring is the movie from that time frame that crawled into my brain, set up shop, and started like paying rent because it just stayed up there, right? That movie got me so good. I'll never forget having a nightmare like 2-3 nights after having watched it with the coming out of the TV scene. Like, literally thought that chick came out of the screen, and when I realized what was happening and in the nightmare, I woke up and saw the kid, the little boy standing at the foot of my bed, dude, scream like a little girl, like I had double pigtails, dude. It was the most embarrassing thing of like 22-year-old Wolf's life. It was hilarious for my brother who I shared a room with when I moved home after college, though. Thought it was pretty funny. Yeah, The Ring was solid, though. Never seen the Japanese version. It's on my bucket list. I need to go back and take a peek at that. And Paranormal Activity, dude, I don't know y'all's opinions of those either, because I feel like, again, it's an interesting idea done once. The world building collapses in on itself like a dying star. Most of them are unwatchable for me now because you know that there's literally a blueprint. You have to sit through 45 minutes of family time to get the one little weird thing that happens. And then you sit through 20 minutes of people yelling at each other about the weird shit that they're watching happen, but nobody believes each other for some reason. And then they smash the gas down for the last 10 minutes. And it all ends with like the weird, which one of you is going to die thing. I don't know about the Marked One spinoff or Ghost Dimension or how it wrapped up. All I know is the first one is all I needed to see, the same as like Blair Witch. Like, you guys did something interesting with found footage. That was enough for me. I didn't need 7 of these. I don't get it's a witch's coven that's behind the whole thing or something. I don't know. I only needed the one. I only needed the final girl of the first movie who was possessed and killed Micah, who was the most obnoxious horror character I've ever seen. I'm glad he died. I don't say that often. Staring creepily at the camera before she rushes it or it cuts to black. Like, that's all I needed. Like, that's really all those movies needed there. But here we go. I'm gonna give you the trifecta of the 90s ones, right? If you grew up at a certain age, and Kingsley is that age, so he may agree or disagree, you've probably seen Hellraiser 3, Wishmaster, and Warlock 2, The Armageddon. They're so quintessentially early 90s with the cheeseball scripts, the cheeseball special effects, the completely one-dimensional characters from start to finish, from protagonist to antagonist, that if you've seen one of them, you've literally seen everything that follows them in the franchise. And I mean that about all of them, because Wishmaster had like 4 of them. Warlock ended up only having 3, I think, total. And Hellraiser's on like 97 of them, including like the Hulu remake, which wasn't bad. If you haven't seen that, I recommend checking that out. I reviewed that a year ago or so. But these 90s movies, when you go back and watch them now, they're so terribly dated because of the fashion, because of the style, because of the hairstyles, the music. And because they're not good, they're hard to watch. Like, if you go back and watch Scream right now, which should be on this list, I just didn't have time. You go back and watch Scream, you get all those same things with the music and the style and how people talk and the haircuts and whatever, the makeup. But the screenplay makes sense. It's cohesive. Characters are likable. The dialogue is good. Everything in those dimensions sucks in these 3 movies. They're awful, dude. Exactly. They are the spawn of unavailable. I always just call them UA. Pape, if you had a vote, if you've seen any of those 3, which is the best of those 3 movies? Is it Hellraiser 3, Warlock 2, or Wishmaster? I'm just calling it UA. You can type it 1,000 times. I'm calling it UA. I don't know. I press 1. But God, those movies are awful. But there's a certain charm to them. Hellraiser 3, all right? I mean, Terry Farrell's in it, so there's that. That always helps. That's very easy to watch. But there's a connection there too. The girl that plays Terry Farrell's little sidekick in Hellraiser 3 is in Warlock 2 as the female lead, actually, just because the initial concept was so cool. Yeah, dude, the Pillar of Souls or whatever it was that he was trapped in was a solid move. I like that. If it had been built more around that and getting him back into that, minus like the stupid nightclub mass murder Carrie scene, we'd have been better off without that. But the Hellraiser one is one that's gone way too long in the tooth. And I'm glad that the remake that just came out on Hulu kind of reset the bar, decanonizes a lot of the stuff that came before, and is really going to tell their own spin-off set of movies, I think, with multiple configurations of the box, which was interesting. There was a journal in there that had not only the Lament configuration, but I think 5 or 6 other ones. And the movie ends with a particular character becoming a new lead Cenobite, which was like a post-credit scene, which was kind of interesting. So that I'm interested in hearing what you guys all have to say in the comments when this goes up. Let us know, of course, what your favorite Halloween movies are, so we can go check them out and tell you if you're wrong. And if they're terrible, they're probably not any worse than some of the ones I picked. I know I have some trash on this list, and that's okay. I know I got some bangers on this list too. And Pape, you should 100% go check out Sinister. That's a given that you should go check that out, boss. It's probably besides Ghostbusters, which is in a league of its own on this list. I think Sinister is probably the best overall film on this list, hands down, bar none. But without any further ado, I'm going to get out of here and go check out some other horror-related things. Warden Prime Pape, thank you for being here. King Z will be back next week. for FrostCast Wednesday nights at 9 Eastern. And I've been Winterwolf in a terrible Wednesday wig. And we will see you guys on the next one. Stay cool, y'all. Be safe out there, man.